Welcome back to Dynamics. Okay, so I'm not opening anything in this video. This is not an opening video. I'm trying to do some of my other stuff. Um, I think it's about time that I talk about the two big series. I'll also touch on a third. But so this video is basically the House of the Dragon, the new Game of Thrones series versus the Rings of Power, the new Lord of the Rings series. One being on HBO, one being on Amazon. Um, I've given, I think, the shows enough time before I come out and just officially, make this video. I really did give both shows a real chance. I had some disappointments with both of them leading into the series. I was a little worried about both of them. Game of Thrones having ended so poorly. This new series, I just didn't have a lot of hope for it being all that great. Some of the controversial decisions with the Lord of the Rings, as far as or the Rings of Power, as far as straying away from what the Lord of the Rings lore actually was. And I know some of that's not their fault, but that's you still made the decision to move forward with this series, right? So, anyways, so none of that has anything to do with the controversies surrounding race within both series. Both series have done, race swaps and some gender swaps and things like that for these series, and none of that has anything to do with whether the shows are good or bad. And I'm not even seeing much in the way of complaints about that. I know that people are saying that's why people don't like these shows, but that's not what I'm seeing. And I watch that content. I watch that sort of content. So let's give my take on these two shows. And let's start with who I am as an audience. You can see behind me there is it's actually a throw blanket that I've pinned to the wall. It's not an actual poster. It's not an actual tapestry. It's a throw blanket that I've pinned to the wall that I've had since I started doing videos in my new office space. Eventually I will be changing that. I will have a green screen behind me, or I will put up a shelf with a bunch of my collectibles that I'll have on there, mostly Magic, because that's the thing I focus on mostly, Magic the Gathering. There'll be some Funko Pops, some other things. I have different ideas for that. But basically, you can see I am a fan of the Lord of the Rings. I have been reading Lord of the Rings related books. Specifically, started with The Hobbit, as any young reader should. I started with The Hobbit, renting it, checking it out from my school library when I was so young that the librarian was unsure if I should check it out because it might be too mature for me. The Hobbit. So that's how young I was when I checked it out. She was unsure if I was going to be of the reading ability to be able to read the book, to understand it, to enjoy it. And some of the content in the book, it's not aimed at adults, obviously, but some of the content is a little hard for the younger audiences, right? And so I had the librarian confirm with my mom, make sure everything was okay with me checking out this book. And just kind of to give an explanation even further, my mom obviously didn't have a problem with it. My dad didn't have a problem with it. I was reading at that point in time Edgar Allan Poe. I was very mature in my reading. One, I was able to read that stuff. I had the ability to read it, the physical ability, the mental ability to read it, and I was able to understand it, comprehend it, and enjoy it. Maybe a little dark, that's true. And you can see some of that come out in my adult life. I'm a little dark sometimes, but I enjoyed it. I am a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan. I love H.P. Lovecraft. Not the individual. He has some questionable history to himself as well, although, he made some changes throughout his life. But he, still had issues. And but his writing and the world that he built and the people that have come that have used him as their precursor. There was a show on HBO not too long ago called Lovecraft Country that was just amazing. Built using the world that this at the time was a racist man. It was early America, or not early America, but it was 1900s, early 1900s. He was a racist man, had some objectionable views about Jews, immigrants, including Irish. I'm Irish Catholic, and had some objectionable views about my people as well. Had some objectionable views about the Jews and minorities such as African Americans. And they took it and they wrote it from a power position, right? Taking back that power, that sort of thing. That was an amazing show. So I enjoy those things as well. I enjoy the dark mystery, suspense, horror. Most of the movies I go see are horror movies. And but I also love fantasy. Fantasy has been just a core component of my upbringing. Reading The Hobbit, then later on in life reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the full Lord of the Rings trilogy, not just pieces from the movies and things, although I did really enjoy the original trilogy of movies. The trilogy for The Hobbit, not as much, but that's a whole different story altogether. I also read the Silmarillion and the collection of works that goes along with the Silmarillion. A lot of the unfinished stories, I've read a lot of that stuff. And, I'm not the expert. I'm not going to be the person that can just like rattle off every single fact of the history of Middle Earth and Tolkien's works. But I know it pretty well. I enjoyed the movie about Tolkien's life. I am a huge fan. All of this, I'm kind of getting on a tangent here. All of this is to say I am a huge fan of Tolkien's works, The Lord of the Rings, and I should have been a huge fan of The Rings of Power. Should have been. Okay, so that's who I am. Then, Game of Thrones. I did not read the George R.R. Martin books. It is still a goal that I have at some point to read them, but I started and then I decided to stop and say, you know what? If he doesn't finish these books, and I read all the way up to the point where he, doesn't finish it, I'm going to be left wanting. And so I am going to wait until he finishes. If he finishes, which is a big if, I will read every single book that he wrote in that universe. I've seen some other stuff he's done. There was a TV series based on some of his other writings that I enjoyed. It was out in space. I can't remember the name of it right now. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the Game of Thrones series all the way up till the point where it stopped following his books. Because they didn't have books to follow anymore because he hasn't finished them. And when you watch that series, you know immediately that they have lost the source material and that the show just collapses. This is what happens when you take someone who has the genius of a George R.R. Martin and you no longer have his genius source material. You have his universe, his world to build from, but not his source material, and it just fell apart. It fell apart, and the characters weren't the same characters anymore. It's like you've been writing the series since season 1. You can't even keep the characters the same. I get it. You're not going to get all all the story points aren't going to be as good as what he's going to end up finishing if he finishes. But at least you keep the characters, right? You would keep the characters But no, all like the characters changed, everything just like fell apart. It was not good. I finished it. I watched it all the way through. Was very disappointed with how that last season ended, and I know most people say just the last season. No, I was disappointed for the last couple seasons, but I finished it. I was not going to not finish it, and I remember like how the series made me feel in the very beginning versus how it made me feel at the end, and I loved it so much, and then I just didn't anymore. Okay, so the Game of Thrones series, which is not based on books that I've been reading since childhood, should not be anywhere near the series based on the Lord of the Rings, the Middle Earth story. Really, it should be based on the Silmarillion, but they don't have all the rights, so they couldn't do it exactly. But it's in that universe, right? It should have been a show that I enjoyed way more than the House of the Dragon show, which I really thought was just filler. It was just like you guys are just kind of like just capitalizing off the Game of Thrones. And you're just trying to throw all these prequels at the wall to see what you can use to make more money. I really did not have high hopes. And in no universe should I have been more excited about Game of Thrones than Lord of the Rings, and in no universe should I have enjoyed a Game of Thrones series more than a Lord of the Rings series. But here we are. The Game of Thrones series, House of the Dragon, is 1,000 times better than Amazon's Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings series. I'm We're almost through the first seasons of both of them. I mean, at least halfway. I haven't looked to see how many more episodes we have for both of them, but at least halfway through both of these, and I feel confident saying this. There's no way that the Ring of Power is going to be able to overcome the House of the Dragon series in this first season. They can turn it around. Second season could be different. If we continue on to third, fourth seasons, anything can happen. They could turn it around, but I don't have high hopes for that. I really don't. Let's kind of talk about it. The emotions that you feel watching the House of the Dragon, it's real. Now, mind you, this is just kind of jump to the end here real quick. I think the reason is because George R. R. Martin is still directly tied with the show creators of the House of the Dragon. And now, mind you, there's only like one book. I think it's one book, the House of the Dragon story or book, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of this is elaborating from there. There's not going to be future books that are going to conflict. But George R. R. Martin has said that the canon is two different canons, so it's allowed to be different from the book, because this is just, technically this is a story based on that book, but the canon is different. So there's rumors in the book that they confirm in the show. Maybe that wouldn't have been actually what had happened if the book had been fleshed out more. That sort of thing. So two different canons. Anyways, they're still working directly with him. He has a hand in creating it. He's making sure that this one doesn't get away from like him and the series creators, like the original Game of Thrones series did. And it is amazing. The acting is great. A lot of the costumes are really good. The CGI is really good. The dragons look amazing. The story is good. The brutality, the dark aspects of it, everything about the show it just shocks me, like how good it is. Not only does it just shock me, there's shocking moments, but it shocks me how good it is. I just never would have thought that, and it's a big huge win for HBO, big huge win for the creators of the show, and it's a big huge win for George R. R. Martin. Great job all around, thumbs up. And I will keep watching it, and if it falls apart like Game of Thrones did, I'll say it. But right now they've got me hooked. I'm just anticipating the show every week, and I just every week it just keeps getting better. They just keep doing things that you're just like, whoa. um, and I do really want to say Matt Smith is amazing, amazing in this series. Um, I had high hopes for him in Morbius, and that didn't work out. It was terrible. He was terrible in Morbius. Um, I didn't hate the movie as much as a lot of people did, but I definitely hated his character. It was just bad. Not completely his fault. I'm not saying it's his fault, but it was bad. He is just showing that he is such a better actor than the Morbius movie showed. And I look forward to seeing his character moving forward. I'm really glad that he's one of the characters that I think survives through the whole movie. At least up till the final season, I would imagine. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I know a little bit about the story. I know what his character does in the end. So I kind of have a feeling that he'll be there till the end of the series. Anyways, all in all, I have to say I'm very impressed with it. So, The Lord of the Rings, Ring of Power. Um, One, they spent a ton making this series, and you can't tell. You cannot tell. The acting they cast. Um, no, here's the thing. Let me say the lady that they got, and I'm gonna forget her name. I didn't bring it up on the screen to do this video. The lady that they have doing Galadriel, I know she is from that movie Saint Maud. She was really good in Saint Maud. If you haven't seen it, watch that movie because she was really great in that. The movie was really good. It's dark. There's some triggering scenes in it. Keep that in mind. But you know, here he in that movie, she's a great actress. I know she could play this role if it had been written like, you know, I'm gonna say it. If it had been written closer to the Galadriel we see even in the Game of Thrones movies with Kate Blanchett, I think she could have played that role amazingly well. I think it would have been great. She could have been still the focus of the series. Um, if the character had been more, if it had resembled Galadriel from the movie and even the books. If the character was anything like the actual Galadriel, here we wouldn't be here. She would be playing it well. She looks the part. Would have been great, but she's been written into the ground. The writers of this show, it's just ridiculous. It's like cheesy fan fiction, and they've taken this character that they've wanted to make this show built around, and they're like, hey, who's the most famous female elf from the Lord of the Rings books? Well, probably Galadriel. I mean, it could have been Aragorn's. Oh, why am I forgetting her name? See, this is what I'm telling you. I'm not great at remembering names. I'm not great at giving all the details of the history. But and I should have had notes up so I didn't look silly forgetting names. But anyways, there's maybe a couple of female elves that would have been characters that are more well known. But I think she's probably it, right? Um, they could have either made her be that Galadriel, or they could have made her be a new character to the lore, right? There's plenty of new characters to the lore in this show. She could have been this elf that just was on this mission to find Sauron, to make sure he really was gone, and could have been a warrior elf princess. It would have been fine. Everybody would have been fine with that. But the writing would have still needed to be better. Like the character is written obnoxiously, acts obnoxiously, looks obnoxious, being like overpowered. Mary Sue, some people are using the term, which is basically saying you're just too powerful for the lore, for the canon of the series, and it's just it's just annoying. It's not fun to watch. Um, watching her make everybody else look bad and being angry about it and just bitter and just like arguing with everybody and acting like she's better than everybody. It's just not fun, right? So here's the thing: you need to you need to change the character. Like she can still be Galadriel, but because it's too late to change that. She's Galadriel. You need to make her start at least becoming the Galadriel she becomes in the books and in the movie. She transitions into this more caring, loving, thoughtful elven woman, and not this character that she is right now. Because right now she is dragging the show down. Other aspects of the show, the dwarves. I do want to talk about some positives because honestly, the dwarves look terrible. Terrible. You spend all this money and it looks like their noses are about to fall off. That's how fake they look. Like it's a clown nose, it's going to fall off at any moment. It's not real, obviously. Of course dwarves aren't really real, and of course they're going to have costumes and outfits and prosthetics and all those things. But when the nose looks fake and it's supposed to look real, even though it's fake, like you can pretend, right, that it's real. But when it looks so fake, it's just impossible. They're not as burly as the dwarves have been previously, and so that's kind of weird. You want them to be like stockier, thicker, you know, but they look like actual actual dwarves. I don't know if that's the appropriate term or not, but anyways, they don't look good at all. Female dwarves should have beards. I do appreciate that they have some facial hair. If you haven't noticed, to look closely, there is some wispy facial hair on the female dwarves. I appreciate the nod. When I initially saw the photos, it was airbrushed to all hell, and so you couldn't see the wispy beard, wispy facial hair, and so everybody was upset. At least they tried to like point to that, while still having them be really feminine, which is weird. But that I appreciate. I will not knock that. Her race has nothing to do with it. Like, it really doesn't. You know, can there be darker skinned dwarves? I've seen some biological reasons why it's possible, like that they shouldn't be because they're underground and whatever, right? And pigments and that sort of things, and how skin, you know, why there's darker skins and lighter skins. Obviously, I'm pasty, so like my history says that I have no need for melanin. But I get all that, but that's not an issue here. It's a fantasy. There can be darker skinned dwarves. I get it. No problem with that whatsoever. I was going to have a problem with the beard situation, but luckily they at least tried to cater a little bit. Okay, so moving on. The dwarves don't look great. They really don't. But the story is great. The way they're acted, the way they're written, even, and to see one character be written so bad and the dwarves be written so good. Everybody was kind of talking about this, I think, but my favorite line of the series so far is he's trying to get his friend to spill the beans. We say spill the beans. Apparently these dwarves say, give me the meat and give it to me raw. Give me the meat and give it to me raw. That is going to, I'm not going to say spill the beans anymore. I'm going to say give me the meat and give it to me raw. It's so good. It is so good. I love it so much. Their friendship is beautiful. Beautiful. Like, you can understand why he was upset in the beginning. You can understand why Elrond was like I don't know. I didn't even think about it. I lived for so long. 20 years isn't a big deal. It's beautiful. Like, and how they're able to to forgive each other with the help of his wife. It's so good. Come on. So that is good. I will take as much of that as I can get. No matter how terrible the dwarves look, I will take as much of that storytelling as I can get, because that's about the extent of the good storytelling. I'll take that back. I really like what's going on in the Southlands. The humans in the Southlands, that storyline with the orcs. Actually, I'm about to have a conference, a work conference, so I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to continue it. I didn't think I was going to go this long on this video, but my lunch break is over, so I'm about to have a conference. I will come back and finish up this video. Be right back. But for you, it's going to be like an instant because I'm pausing. All right, so now I can finish this this video. So basically, where was I? So the Elrond character. Oh no, the humans. I went down to the humans. Okay, so the humans in the Southland story. I'm really intrigued by it. I'm really intrigued by how that probably turns into Mordor, and so a lot of these humans probably are the what are they called? They're called something I'm just not remembering it right now. But these humans turn into the followers of Sauron, the part of the armies of Sauron. But obviously there are some good humans down there still. The story of the orc father, what is it, Adal? Is that what we're calling him? How he's a corrupted elf. That's really interesting to me. I love that it's like, this is kind of what I was hoping. If they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion, you can write all of these stories in Middle Earth that don't ruin the lore, that don't ruin the characters that are already a part of the lore, like Galadriel. Elrond is a little off too, but I can forgive it a little bit more. He is younger, and he's not so far removed from who he becomes. And you can see, the life changes that cause him to be harder. Because right now he's very, very friendly and very, upbeat. And he becomes darker in his later life after the war that, we're building up to in this show. Galadriel seems to be the other way. She becomes less harsh later in life, and I hope that they build to that somehow. But anyway, so these characters in the human Southlands are characters that we don't know. Some of them may become characters that we know. The hints of Witch Kings of Anmar and the different humans that become the ring wraiths and things like that could possibly come into play here. But I'm just really enjoying that storyline. Again, the whole, race, everybody's mad because race. I don't care that the elf is not white. He is great. I love his character. I love his role in this series. So it doesn't even matter what the race of the elf is. The elf character that they've written is a solid character, and I look forward to getting more from him. It's not perfect. There's some weird aspects, and why did the father character send him when he could just go there and tell the humans they need to bow to him himself, which he ends up doing, or he's going to do I'm imagining the next episode when the siege takes place. But I want to know so badly what's going on with this character, that's leading him to create or at least lead these orcs. I'm hoping he is the creator, that he is the progenitor that he is the reason why these orcs were created. I think it's a pretty interesting story that we could get, and they could ruin it completely. So that's possibly good stuff, right? The dwarves and the interactions with the elves is good stuff, but the vast majority of this show is just terrible. And I just, the amount of money they spent on it, everything should be pristine, like the acting, the casting, the costumes. The dwarves should look better. Um, the sea monster was kind of cool looking, but it seemed like they were placed in a green screen. It just didn't look as clean as, say, the interactions with the dragons on the House of the Dragon show. It just doesn't seem like they're actually interacting with each other. It just is not as smooth. The wargs, holy crap, they looked terrible. The wargs, when they were attacking the elves, it just like they don't seem like they're connected. Like it seems like it's like this is like it's Roger Rabbit, right? Where it's like a cartoon and the real world together. But it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be the real world. The CGI is just not good. Some of the scenes are shot beautifully, as people say, but overall, like it doesn't look great. And I'm gonna keep watching it. I want to see how it plays out. Right, the Harfoots are annoying. They are caricatures of my culture, the Irish culture. They don't belong there, and they just detract from the show. They're annoying. I wish they weren't there. The Meteor Man could become a very cool aspect of the show, but I swear if it's Gandalf, I'm just gonna just turn the show off. I'll be done. Because it's not Gandalf. Gandalf's not supposed to be there. I see people try to justify it being Gandalf. It's not freaking Gandalf. And if it is, just I put my hands up. I'll be done. If he's one of the other wizards, one of the blue wizards, or a different wizard that we don't know about, I'd be okay with that. I would. It'd be a little weird that we know about these blue wizards that no one ever talks about, but there's this other wizard that's maybe a different color, that was not talked about at all and is not mentioned in anything previously. But I would accept that. I would accept if he's a different wizard, a different color wizard. I would accept if he's Sauron, like, because that's one of the theories is that he just doesn't remember, but he is Sauron. I'll accept that, and in fact, that might be pretty interesting. The characters that are following him kind of, I don't think it doesn't look like they're following him to kill him. So it kind of seems like maybe they're trying to find him to remind him who he is. And that would be kind of interesting. But the Harfoots are just a distraction. They're annoying. I don't like it. It's offensive to me, technically speaking, and I'm just not enjoying it. Yeah. So of all the storylines that we have going, Harfoot's terrible. Galadriel, terrible. Numenor is tied to Galadriel, so it's kind of terrible. Some aspects of it are okay, but for the most part, terrible. Galadriel's partner in crime, what's his name? Harlan, something. Anyways, that guy's character's written terribly. He could be Sauron, and that would be less interesting. If he ends up being one of the Witch Kings or the Ring Wraiths, that's kind of interesting. So we'll see. We'll see. If he is really supposed to be the king and he follows Sauron, then that's kind of interesting. We'll see. But so far, that storyline has been terrible. The dwarves, I like the dwarves. I'm good with that. I want more of that. The humans and their interactions with the orcs, that could be good. But for the most part, Lord of the Rings is inferior to House of the Dragon, and being the huge fan since I was a little kid of Tolkien's work, that should not be the case, and I'm bummed that it is. I'm disappointed. Disappointed in you, Amazon. But I'll continue to enjoy watching House of the Dragon. I'll continue hate watching Lord of the Rings series until it gets good or until I can't takes it no more. And yeah, we will move on from there. And then since we're talking about the cultural shows that are the big talking points of the day, I'll go ahead and touch on She-Hulk for a minute here. This video is already way too long, so maybe I should make that a separate video, but I'll just kind of mention it here too. She-Hulk is terrible. I am a fan of comics. I follow comics. I know what they're going for, but the show is terrible. I have a lot of guys that I follow or watch on YouTube, comic fans that are trying to defend it. They're enjoying it. Not a lot. There's a couple that are trying to defend it. It's not good. There's nothing about it that's good. I watch it as just a complete hate watch, just so I'm sure I know what's going on in the MCU. It's terrible. Everything about it is terrible. The CGI is terrible. The acting is terrible. The casting was terrible. The only decent part is the guest appearances, and even them ruin characters. Like, freaking Wong is one of the best characters in the MCU, and even he can't save the series. She's twerking. She-Hulk was twerking and looking ridiculous doing it because the CGI is terrible. The last episode was a wedding episode, and it was terrible. The dating is terrible. It's awkward. It's cringe. Everything about it. The show hates men. I mean, it just does. Come on. What are you gonna say? The show hates men. How are you gonna make a series in the MCU where the majority of people who watch your series are men and just nonstop just hate men, just hate them, like with a passion? That last one with the Mr. Eternal, Mr. Immortal is a comic book character, kind of a cheesy comic book character, but a comic book character, and they just made him a subplot where he married tons of women and was a terrible person to women because he's a man and he's terrible. He's a mutant. This is one of the first mutants we get in the MCU. The show is terrible. I'm only watching it because I feel like I have to. Both me and my girlfriend agree, by the way. We watch it together. It's not I'm just a man hating it. My girlfriend hates it. The kids hate it. They won't even watch it with us. Like, they're just like, it's terrible. The kids. This almost seems like it's aimed at kids. Kids think it's terrible. They won't even watch it. They're just like, they're making fun of the CGI. Kids, little kids, making fun of the CGI, making fun of the show. It's terrible. All right, so that's enough ranting. I'm at the almost 40-minute mark, so we are done. We are done with this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you even stuck through and watched the whole thing. Anyways, all right, take care, everybody. Have a good day.